obviously done for the day. I'm just wondering, if today met your expectations and really what you were trying to accomplish, being in this really interesting position where, you're not necessarily, looking only towards the future, but just about the here and now as well. It puts you in a very interesting position at this time of year.
It sure has. I mean, let's face it, it's not a position I thought we would be in, but we were. We're here. We kind of looked at this deadline as a transitional deadline, moving forward. How can we set ourselves up, in the off season, cap-wise, grabbing some assets now, but also, remembering like we are with our team and the core plays that we have, winning is important here. Yes, taking your leading scorer out of the lineup is tough to replace. I didn't replace him, but we have enough talent on this team to fight back here. So when I talk about the transitional deadline, it's more like how do we help ourselves set up for the future without taking anything off our roster now.
And I would imagine what you're kind of emphasizing there is really at that goaltender position where it has been a struggle to find that stability. You unload the contract that Vitek had, bring in someone who's not going, who's a UFA. Is that kind of what you're alluding to there in terms of really setting yourself up for the summer?
Yes. I mean, we can go back and people may say, why didn't you do it last summer? Well, you know what? We had a goaltender who won 30-plus games, had a great season for us. We had that magical run last year. We had a young goaltender that looked like he was ready to make the next step, But those things didn't happen this year. Getting goaltenders is a tough thing. They're a hot commodity, and when you have it, you don't give them up. So that's, again, no excuse. But moving forward, I felt, I've been in the market for quite some time, realizing that some doors were closing. But being able to go out and get a veteran with a lot of character, great locker room guy, great athlete in Jake Allen, who's excited to be part of our organization. He had a no move clause to us. He waived it to come to us because he sees the opportunity and the upside. With Vitek, it was an opportunity to, like you said earlier, just he had another year left in his contract to get out of that and to set ourselves up this summer with a lot of flexibility in that position to pick and choose what we want to do.
At what point did you realize it wasn't going to work out with Tyler Toffoli?
Well, I would say probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago when I spoke to his agent about a contract. We talked about term and where we thought, where we wanted to be term-wise, what his expectations were, completely respect where he wanted to be. Kind of circled back probably about 10 days ago and realized that he was pretty hell-bent on a little more term that we were willing to do. But at that point, I wasn't willing to trade Tyler Toffoli because of that. I was willing to have him as our rental and then kind of readdress this in the off season. But as we continue to lose games, I felt the California trip and then obviously the previous couple games, results were important. I wasn't giving Tyler away for just to get assets. But I just felt like at this time, it was the right thing to do for the organization because of where we're at. Doesn't mean we can't fight and claw back, but the percentages are what they are, where we are. So Tyler's a great kid. I thought I would do that trade 7 days, twice on Sunday, over again. He's our leading scorer, great kid, great locker room. He was everything that I thought he would be. A player that I have interest in the offseason if he's interested in New Jersey. So those are things we'll kind of look into as the summer comes and where players are at. But it was just an opportunity for me to grab some assets for a player that we're unsure if he was going to be able to come back.
Thanks, Fitz.
Yep.
Thanks, Amanda. We'll go to Ryan Novozinski, NJ.com.
Hey, Tom. Curious, have you talked to any of the players today? And I guess what kind of message do you think that these moves today send to the room?
Well, I talked to our leadership group, like I told you, whenever I had the Lindy press conference, that I sat with our captains and we talked about where we're at. And the reality of where we're at will dictate what we do in the future. So I don't think, selling players off of future assets is a surprise to our team because of where we're at. As far as the goaltending situation, Vitek's hurt. Like I'm not even sure he'll be back this year. But like I said, I hope they see that it's an opportunity for us to set ourselves up this summer to have the cap space for a position of need and be quite honest, big game hunting.
And second question, I mean, when Dougie goes down, you guys place him on LTIR. There was, been a lot of LTIR room over the past couple months with that injury. Is there a regret there at all that you didn't use that to, try to salvage it early on, or is that just curious your thoughts?
Not at all, because when it comes to an injury in an individual's handling, you just don't know exactly when they can be back. And yes, we had the proximity of when he would be back. It wasn't until later that it was really thorough that it was going to be quite some time. But at that time, I was still in the goalie market. I was still looking at what to add in the goal. But at the end of the day, it takes two teams to try to make a trade. So no, there's no regrets because the effort was there.
And, last two, I mean, are you happy with what you've seen out of Kakkonen behind, a Sharks team that has 15 wins? Obviously, some of his numbers are pretty up there, too, though.
Again, this wasn't about him. It wasn't about the goalie. It was about the flexibility that this move gives us moving forward. He is an NHL goalie. He's an NHL backup goalie. Really what it does, it's where we are with our two young kids. It's, I hedged the bet that, playing some young players like that would benefit us because of what we saw last year, in particular Schmid. You know what? The reality is he's still a young goaltender. He needs to play and needs to go through the growing pains at the American League level. So this right now, this move, it's not about Capo. It's about us having flexibility moving forward.
Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
Thanks, Ryan. We'll go to Mike Morial, NHL.com.
Hey, Fitzy, I know you said that this gives you flexibility in goal, but how do you see the goalie situation panning out for the remainder of this season and then perhaps the future now?
Well, I mean, we targeted Jake Allen, for obvious reasons, his experience. We know where Jake Allen is in his career. Jake Allen's got some rust on him too, because he's been one of three goalies sharing a net. So he's going to need some time here to get that rust off. But it wasn't really about the remainder of this year with Jake because of his personal situation of lack of playing, but it was more moving forward where once he gets back into rhythm and where he feels he needs to go and needs to be, then we're looking at a potential tandem that maybe could rate up there in the league if I was able to land one of these big fishes. So for us, it was really more about getting the right person. He's a great character person, great locker room. Like I said, he's a fantastic athlete. He's a Stanley Cup champion. Something that we wanted to add.
Are you done goalie shopping?
Well, the deadline was what, 3 hours ago, 2 hours ago?
Well, I guess I'm referring to the off season.
No, I said this allows us, Mike, to be able to be in on anything next summer and have the flexibility with what we believe will be available in the off season.
And then finally, Fitz, real quick, were you at all disappointed with what you got back for Toffoli, or was that kind of the market there?
No, that's the market. The market is the market. All these guys in that similar situations, were multiple picks, maybe a prospect. You didn't see any first go. So no, I mean, you can only, you work with the market, and then you work the market against each other. But at the end of the day, this was our best bet.
Thanks, Fitz.
Yep.
Thanks, Mike. We'll go to James Nichols, the fourth period.
Hey, Tom, how you doing? You mentioned that you were in talks with Toffoli and his agent about a potential extension. At any point, were you guys close to coming to an agreement and you just couldn't figure out maybe something small there?
No, because like I said earlier, we didn't even get by the term of the deal. Completely opposite thoughts. And that didn't change. Tyler wants a longer term deal, and at this point we weren't willing to do that. So there was no need to even talk about money or anything like that. Revisited the conversation, like I mentioned, and again, it was about the term. And he felt that, to get what he thought he wanted in term, he would probably have to get to the market. So that's how the conversation went.
And obviously, you acquired 2 goaltenders today. Does that, barring any injuries here, push out, Nico Dawes and Akira Schmid from the tandem as of right now?
Well, we reassigned Akira back to Utica. We, depending on Capo and his travels, may need to recall Schmid to back up Nico tomorrow. As far as Nico's concerned, we're gonna that will depend on Jake and when he gets into town. You got to remember, immigration isn't easy, especially getting back into the country. But that'll depend on where he's at, where his game's at, where he feels comfortable enough to take the ball and play games. He'll need a few practices anyways, to get some of the rust off. It all depends on him, what we do with Nico. But at the end of the day, we don't want Nico playing. We want him going down we don't want him sitting. We want him going down and playing. But it's a fluid conversation we're going to have with the goalie department.
And last one from me here. You have another year on Jake Allen's deal. Does that mean that you anticipate he'll be part of your goaltending tandem for next season as well?
Yes.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, James. Just as a reminder to attending media, please keep yourselves on mute until called upon. Next, we'll go to Simon and Olivier Lorange from La Presse.
Hi, Tom, from La Presse in Montreal. I have a couple for you. First, can you just clarify, did you say that New Jersey was on Jake Allen's no trade list and he lifted it to get the trade done?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Your goalies have been struggling for a lot of time now, and Jake Allen has been available basically all season from what we understand. Why didn't you do this trade earlier?
Because he had a no trade clause and we were on it.
It's as simple as that.
Yes, it's that simple.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We'll go to Josh Reinitz from the Hockey Writers.
Thanks, Nick. Good afternoon, Tom. Did you guys ask Jake Allen to lift the no trade earlier and he declined, or is that just today was the first time they went to him with it?
No, we inquired on Jake Allen a while back, but was told we were on his no trade list.
Okay. On Tuesday, when you talked to us, it seemed that you didn't want to move to Foley just for futures. Was there a point at all today or the last couple of days where you considered that the return you were getting wasn't enough and you thought about holding on to Tyler to make a run at the playoffs?
No, when we spoke, be quite honest, the benchmark for what I was going to do was coming up on the next 2 games. We lose to Florida, and I realized that we weren't getting any ground. I'd never put Tyler Toffoli's name out on the market. I'd never shopped him around. Did I receive phone calls from certain teams that were asking because they saw where we were in the standings and where we were slipping to? Yes. It wasn't until the next day I felt it was appropriate for our organization to actually put Tyler Toffoli out on the market because of where we were in the standings. And the same plus teams kept calling, and finally it was, where do you see Tyler's return, and we discussed that. And then it just took on a life of its own, and realized the best thing for the organization right now is to grab these assets for Tyler.
And then last one for me is, did you consider using the space that you guys had to buy some expiring players as rentals to try to make a run for the next couple of weeks?
We did, but the reality is, you have to look at the odds, and you have to, use that to make decisions. When you're a 13 or 18% chance of making the playoffs, that's a big bet. And that doesn't mean I don't believe in my team, but it's a big bet. So to give up future assets with, a low percentage bet at that time, meaning like, geez, we're going to need to put some wins together. At the end of the day, it's all about winning, and we haven't been putting 2 points on the board to gain some, to grab some, catch teams. So to give up those assets, that's, to me, wasn't smart asset management. Even though I believe in the team, like we've got a good team. We've got some good players. It hasn't gone well. Underperforming players, whether it's structure and coaching, whether it was goaltending, my undoing and not, making moves earlier. We are here. This is where we are. So to just give up assets for, kind of low bets, it just didn't make sense to me.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Josh. We'll go to Tom Canavan, AP.
Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Hi, Tom.
When you look at this trade deadline, did anything surprise you?
Well, like I said at the beginning, Tom, I didn't think we'd be on this side of the trade deadline. None of us did. But the reality is we are. And like you said, there was an opportunity for us to get some futures for where we were, to set ourselves up, cap-wise, and have flexibility in the off season to do what we think we can do. Yeah, I didn't think we would be there for the sell-off, but I keep saying it is what it is. Like, it's something that we didn't expect to happen. But I have to take the pitches as they come to me, and this is what was dealt to me.
And expanding on that, league-wide, did anything surprise you?
You know what? I don't look at it like that. I'm just really focused on the Devils, and to be honest, Tom, I haven't really seen every trade, or I'm not on social media, so I'm not always checking to see what happened, and so I'm really not up to date on anything that happened throughout the league.
Okay, and my final question is, if I understood you right, when everything's in place, Nico and Akira will be the guys working every day in the minor leagues, and Jake and Kakkonen would be your players for the rest of the year?
Well, I mean, the rosters expand here.
Okay,
so
right, okay.
yeah, the rosters expand. Nico's going to be, actually he was reassigned, but recalled officially. So, we make a push here, make the playoffs, great. If Utica makes the playoffs, Nico can go down and play there. My gut tells me he will see some time in Utica from here on in. But also, we're going to use him here in the next, again, until Jake Allen is ready to go.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Tom. We'll go to Christy Flannery, the Hockey News.
Thanks, Nick. Hi, Tom. How are you?
Hi, I'm okay.
So in May of 2022, you spoke about your forward group and said you had a lot of the same, and that wasn't something that you wanted, and you wanted to start mixing and matching. So my question is, at this point, do you feel you have enough diversity amongst your forward group?
I think we're getting there, Christy. I think, when you look at, the Lazars and adding McDermott, without Nate Bastian in the lineup, we lacked physicality. I think if you look back at that lineup back then, with certain players that were skilled and, maybe on the I don't want to say the softer side, but not the hardness that we have now. That's always evolving. You know, do we have a forward group of fighters? No. But we have forwards who play hard and finish checks. I think that's a demand from the coaches too. You know, I think anybody can finish checks if they're asked to, play harder. I think we're getting there, Christy. I really do.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Christy. We'll go to Stephen Wino, AP.
Hey, Tom, just one thing for me. You mentioned obviously the goalie market, and you made multiple trades for goalies, but how difficult is it to make goalie trades at the deadline? Just given that it's obviously the most important position in hockey, but it seems like guys don't get a whole lot of value at this time of year.
Well, I think goaltenders in general in the past, because that's all we can go off of past, you know, trades. Like this guy went for that, this guy went for that. Like, why would you ask for this? You know, I dealt with that a lot. You know, this season, probably even going back to the fall, with trying to upgrade. But at the end of the day, teams with goalies don't need to move them unless they're, you know, maybe ready to hit free agency and they're going to lose a goalie, so they want to grab some assets for him. But at the end of the day, you know what? Like there is a market. People before me have set that market. All I'm trying to do is be fair in that market. But you also need a team that wants to, you know, make fair deals too, versus just, you know, extorting you for every big asset you have. So I think we were smart about it, but you know what, this opportunity this offseason gives us a chance to look at the market, what's going to be available this summer, and really, you know, add something that we haven't had here in a while. That's the goal.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Stephen. We'll go back to James Nichols for a follow-up.
Hey, Tom, sorry, I just have one more. You shipped Colin to Winnipeg. Do you anticipate you're going to need another defenseman on the roster, maybe from Utica, or maybe Nick DeSimone will get a couple of reps here? Yeah,
that's the hope. You know, we haven't seen Nick. You know, we obviously been in a battle here, and coaches get, you know, you obviously have your guys. But we have 7 right now. Nick is going to be here. I'd like to see Nick in action, and is he a guy that we bring back in some capacity? Right shot D are hard to find, and you know, Hitaka, when he was here, played extremely well. So we know we have the ability to call him up and put him in the lineup and feel like he can continue to do what we saw. So we feel we had options, depth anyways, at this point.
Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
Thanks, James. For our last question, we'll go to Bill Spalding, MSG Networks.
Hey, Fitzy. Just quickly curious on, you know, bringing in the 2 veteran goalies. Was there any consideration or how much consideration to like preserving or trying to preserve the waiver exempt status of your young netminders?
Well, that definitely goes into it, Bill, for sure. You know, especially with one of them is getting up there, and that's important. You know, and you know, because of our goaltending situation and the amount of games and injuries that we've had. The injuries that we had. You know, these young goalies have played. Especially Akira have played a lot of games, so that's important. That really is. That's a very important thing, and but that's not the reason why you reassign somebody down to the minors, Bill. It's, you know, if someone's playing great, you blow through those waiver days. That's not an issue, you know. But it's Akira needs to get down and play, grab some confidence, you know, kind of just work on his game. Versus continue to add games up here, whether Dawes or whoever gets pulled and he goes in. Those games count towards waivers. So, you know, these moves for veterans, you know, Jake Allen was a future move, a current and future move. Capo, we'll see what happens there, but it was a move, gave us flexibility with the summer, as he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. But more importantly, it's about the 2 young kids who, you know, learning on the job as a goaltender is really hard. They'll need some time, more time down there, and gain some confidence, and hopefully build up their game where we go. We've got two major assets in the American Hockey League.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, everyone. That concludes our availability. Have a great night.
See ya. All right.